Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we're going to be talking about what I've been watching for the month of May. Now, this is outside of the current challenge that I have issued, and I'm also currently in. I've been recently doing an international movie challenge where I'm watching 10 films outside the United States, outside the English-speaking country. So I guess I'm not picking England or Canada or Australia, for instance. But no, I'm watching 10 films from different countries. And actually, in my particular instance, I'm watching something from different countries. But I hope some of you are able to do that, and some of you are able to participate. And it's a fun thing, because it's watching unwatched things that I've been sitting on my shelf for a little bit. So it's a nice little way to have a little bit of order and a little bit of direction in what I'm watching. So that's what I'm doing at the current moment. But I was able to watch, in between my ABC movie challenge that I recently did and this international movie challenge, I was able to watch some things outside of that, and I wanted to share them with you today. And so this is my Blu-ray recommendations. All of these films are available like on Amazon and the other sites that will pop up from these boutique Blu-ray labels. And so I hope you can pick them up or watch them maybe on some streaming services if you don't have the means, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I'm going to talk about a few television series, and then I'm also going to talk about some movies that I watched. So let's just jump right into it. All right, so first and foremost, this is to get this out of the way for the people who don't care about sports, but I recently, I guess since the pandemic really started, really been getting into basketball, and I really love the fact that I just kind of dived into it blind. Thank you, Last Dance, for really restoring my interest in sports. But I've been watching a lot of ESPN 30 for 30s, and that's exactly what I've been doing. I've been watching the second season of ESPN the 30 for 30s. These are 30 films by 30 different filmmakers on a variety of different subjects, biographies of sports events that have happened, historical events that have happened. Recently, I just watched 3 of the films in the collection. I just watched Benji, Ghosts of Ole Miss, and You Don't Know Bo. So all of these are really fantastic stories. Like Benji was an unfortunate story of an athlete, a high school athlete, who was cut down in the end of his prime. So that's a really great story to kind of see maybe just the people who surrounded him in his life. And then the Ghosts of Ole Miss. This was right around the Civil Rights era, so this is Mississippi, and the battle between the Kennedys and also Mississippi, but also the football team in Ole Miss. And so it's talking a lot about that, and the filmmaker who was actually born in Mississippi, and really kind of tackling this issue and seeing like how in the world during this tumultuous time period, how was the football team able to succeed so well? And during the Civil Rights era, where you have a student, the first black student on campus too, and so there's just a lot of crazy events that have kind of transpired during this time period. And then You Don't Know Bo. So this is about Bo Jackson, the baseball/football player, the pro, who is just a god, I guess, among athletes because he was able to do both. And so, yeah, I've been really enjoying this. This is an incredible set. I have the first season, and this is the second. I believe the third season, I think, is on DVD, or at least half of them are. I really want them to make more Blu-rays. So if ESPN's ever watching this, please, for the love of God, do not cut out physical media. Keep putting these ESPN 30 for 30s, because I think there's 4 seasons already out. I know you can probably stream them, but I really want to own them physically because they're awesome. So yeah, that's the first thing that I've been watching. I'm still in the midst of that. I've only watched, I think, 6 of the 30. So it's going to be a while until I see it all. The next is a TV series, and this TV series is legendary. And I think recently on Amazon, it had some price up and downs and also some shipping issues. I don't know exactly, so don't quote me on that. But I did pick this up maybe, I don't remember, but I think a year ago when it was on sale. And I was finally able to see the first season of this. I've been kind of piecemealing it back and forth. But I'm talking about the Twilight Zone with Rod Serling. And I really just love this. I remember watching a lot of episodes growing up. But, a lot of those episodes are kind of legendary. Like with the thing on the plane, like on the wing of the plane. It's like, oh, what is that? And things like that. But besides that, I've been really kind of just digging going into this TV series, and I really am like kind of blind to a lot of television series of this time period of the late 50s, early 60s. and seeing that transition. And so I know there's people out there in the community that have watched a lot of these series and really enjoy them and know a lot more about that stuff. But Twilight Zone holds a special place in my heart. I love the different like thriller, noir, mystery, horror, like all those elements in there, and there's even some comedic ones too. But it's just incredible that like it's almost like an anthology series of sorts, because each episode is its own thing, its own little story. And so I've just saw the first season, which I think is like 37 episodes or something along those lines. Incredible. But I've been going through these. I don't really like the way this American box set is set up now, because it's just a little bit flimsy with its cases, but I am glad that they're not like, the discs are not stacked on top of each other. As you can see, it's kind of like, trays and stuff, so that's much better. But yeah, the box set's a little wonky, like I said. But yeah, great show. Has anyone seen Twilight Zone? I'm sure you have, but let me know down in the comment section down below. Now we're going to move on to some criterions. All right, so the first criterion is one that has literally been on my shelf probably for like 3 years. And it's a shame that I haven't seen this. And I'm so happy that I was able to finally watch this. Actually, I believe that I talked a little bit about it on the Cobwebs podcast. My friend Daniel, who also has a YouTube channel, he also has a podcast, Cobwebs, Dusting Off Classic Cinema. And we talked about Harakiri. But I think I recently mentioned that I watched this kind of near the beginning of the month, or maybe near the end of April. But I finally watched 1954's Sancho the Bailiff, and I love this design and this box set. This is like Criterion. Keep designing box sets like this, like sturdy. It looks good. It's built better. But I know Criterion's kind of weird on it's hit or miss with their packaging. But yes, this is Kenji Mizoguchi from 1954. This is an incredible tale of Japanese folklore about a wrongfully accused family and kind of the aftermath of that, and seeing where that lies, and really just kind of a heartbreaking story, and seeing that unfold. It's a really emotional one, and it's an incredible film, and I'm glad that I finally was able to watch it. But if you haven't seen this, definitely check this movie out. Buy it on Blu-ray or watch it on the Criterion channel. It's incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. I believe I gave it a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So if you haven't seen Sancho the Bailiff, do yourself a favor, strap in, and prepare yourself for a ride. Okay, so the next film I have is another early. I didn't mention the spine number on that, 386 for Sancho the Bailiff. But now we're going to talk about some early Criterion spine numbers. So this is spine number 10. It's a film from 1971, directed by Nicholas Roeg. So it's an Australian film, and it's actually even starring a younger, like the young son of Nicholas Roeg. He's one of the kids in this film. But I finally watched 1971's Walkabout, and I love that cover. Holy crap. And speaking of this cover, like, this is an incredibly lush journey to, surround yourself in the Australian outback. And it's really just about these two kids who get stranded out there, who pretty much get left behind on purpose. You'll see kind of in the film, if you watch it, why that happens, and like, what's that out, and them to survive. And they run into somebody who is going on their walkabout. So in Australia, the Aboriginals, they have, I guess, this tradition for a male youth, I believe, to go on this walkabout mission to kind of just survive on their own. I don't know the whole details of it all, but I can't tell you that. But yeah, so the walkabout is for them to survive out in the wilderness, and so the kids run into him, and it's an incredible journey. It's very surreal, and it's because it's 1971, and it's also Nicholas Roeg, so you're gonna experience some sensory things, right? You're gonna experience what's going out on the outback. You're also like the editing and cutting choices are very, 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 very for this time period, but also very Nicholas Roeg. And so, I'd say this is an experience of a film. If you haven't seen Walkabout, do yourself a favor. I believe also Second Sight has, I think Second Sight is the company in the UK that has put out an amazing box set of this film. But I have the Criterion right here. But if you have, do yourself a favor. If you're in the States, get this one. Watch it on the Criterion channel. It's a great film, and it's an incredible one, and it's one that'll you'll get sucked into because it's bizarre, it's beautiful, it's innocent, it's also like brutal at the same time. All those things I just mentioned. Okay, so the next film, I believe, is just a recent release. I'm actually going to look right here, 2018, not that recent, when this got reintroduced as a Blu-ray. This is Spy number 89. This is from 1973, and is directed by none other than Brian De Palma. It's Sisters right here. And this is a psychological thriller of sorts, an erotic thriller. That's what Brian De Palma is known for, if you've seen any of his works. But yeah, Sisters is a really fantastic film, and really kind of just goes some places that you don't really expect it to. You kind of have an idea of what's going on, but it's definitely surrounded by, in an apartment, there's a murder that happens, and understanding like, okay, this person who actually happens to work for a newspaper, maybe a sensational newspaper, sees this murder or this death, and tries to confront the women in the apartment, and seeing like what happened exactly. But it's really just this cat and mouse game, trying to figure out what's exactly going on with the police, and also with this reporter trying to figure out what's going on with this murder that's happened in this apartment. Now, I obviously didn't mention too much of the film itself, but I do want to say it's an experience to watch, right? It's something to see, but it's a really great setup. I think it's really fantastic. There's really great performances right here. And I really love the use of, like, I guess there's a split screen thing that's very Hitchcock-like. So I guess Rear Window was something that you can conjure up in your mind with this film in particular. So I guess De Palma has a little bit of Hitchcock in this particular film on his sleeve. But yeah, it's a really great film. I love the techniques. I love the twists and turns, and I hope you do too. So watch Sisters. Yep, Spine number 89 right here. So next is actually two films by somebody I have never seen any of his works before. In fact, I actually have a box set right behind me. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, it's all the way in the corner. The Sam Fuller box set from Powerhouse Films Indicator. But I actually had these a couple years ago for the first time, and I never watched them. This is Spine number 18 and 19, and unfortunately they're out of order with the year, so I'll talk about, I actually watched them in Spine number order, not year order, even though I guess you could interchange them. So I'm talking about Sam Fuller's, I'm talking about Shock Corridor and The Naked Kiss. So let's talk about the film I watched second, Shock Corridor from 1963. So like I said, Sam Fuller is somebody, I guess, who is a writer slash director, but he also used to, I guess, run in a tabloid when he was a youth. So he's very quick on writing things, and also has a very snappy personality. But he's really interested in those stories that really are kind of forgotten and really kind of put on the back burner of people who are in society that are really not looked at. And I really love that about him. He seems very eccentric, and with the interviews that I've seen with him, because I was able to watch the special features on both these discs, and I really enjoyed the way he talked about how he set up all these things, and with all the people who were involved with his work. But this film in particular is Shock Corridor, so it's exactly what you think. It's a mental asylum. It's actually this guy who's chasing this story, trying to figure out who murdered somebody, and he has some suspects within this psych ward. And he gets himself indoctrinated into the psych ward, pretending that his girlfriend is his sister, and with that starts going mad himself a little bit within this particular film. So Johnny Barrett, who is played by Peter Breck, he's seeking this Pulitzer Prize, trying to figure out this murder. And really just kind of gets himself institutionalized, and that's pretty much the gist of the movie, and just the insanity. I can actually see where maybe a decade later, where One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest, or something along the lines of A Clockwork Orange would take something from Shock Corridor. I can see some parallels there, and Sam Fuller definitely in 1963 was able to cross some boundaries and talk about things that were just really insane. So yeah, that's Shock Corridor. I actually liked this next film a little bit more, maybe because it was a little less all over the place for me. This is a little bit more of like a noir of types. The Naked Kiss right here. It's also another film that came out a year later, 1964. It's actually starring, the sister slash girlfriend in this film, and is the main character here, Constance Towers. She's in both these films. But Constance Towers plays more or less a prostitute who is trying to turn the page. It actually starts off in a very, very crazy way. I'm not going to spoil anything because it's like it just grabs you. It grabs you, by the shirt, I guess, by the neck or something like that, right? Like the first frame. So just take my word on that one. But with that, she's just trying to escape this past, goes into this town, runs into another lowlife of sorts, and tries to figure out, trying to get a little bit more direction in her life. And things ensue from there. And that's all I'm really going to really say. So it's somebody who definitely comes from a lower end on, I guess, the societal ladder of sorts, and just trying to turn a new leaf and try to figure out what to do about that. And yeah, it's really definitely playing with morality a little bit here, and then also like what do we view as like prim and proper, and like who do we trust. I really love this film. It's got some twists too, because it's a noir. And it's incredible. I really, really love this movie. And it's very powerful. Like I said, 64, it's talking about things, once again, just like in 1963, talking about things in society that really aren't shown in film. But it's really, really powerful. And I'm very excited to check out Sam Fuller at Columbia, that box set from Indicator, very, very soon. All right, so the last film from Criterion is a film from 1963. It's a comedic thriller, and I just had a blast with this one. Because it's starring an older Cary Grant, and we also got Audrey Hepburn. I finally watched Charade. This is insane. An insane film. So lovable. I don't know. I just love pretty much the oh kind of moments in the film itself. You know what I mean if you've seen this movie. It's literally all over the place. It's really silly, I guess. So I guess how to explain this? Audrey Hepburn, she more or less is stuck in this situation where there's a death, and she inherits this thing that she doesn't know anything about, where there's money, and she doesn't really know her husband. I guess she didn't really know her husband too well, and there's three people in her husband's past, all incredibly zany characters that are coming to try to take this money away from her in very strange ways, and you'll see it in this movie. I guess this is like is around the same time as like Dr. No, so it's around like a James Bond type, so it has some Bond elements to it, and also some Hitchcock elements as well, kind of thrown in there. But it's a really fun film, and there's a lot of twists in it as well, obviously, just like the freaking frenzy of a charade going on the front cover, which I really love. But yeah, this is Spine number 57. This is an incredible film. If you haven't seen Charade, you're gonna have yourself a good time, and there's some really wonderful moments. It'll like warm your heart a little bit among this masquerade of a film. So if you haven't seen Charade, definitely do yourself a favor. Watch all those films. I believe they're all available on the Criterion channel. If not, like, buy them. I think there are only a few more days left. And they're all 30% off on the Criterion website themselves. I'm sure Amazon might be price matching as well. But we're going to move on to some standard Blu-rays, and we're going to jump right into those next. All right, so next is a film that I believe I talked about it recently. I don't remember where, but I recently bought this film, so I wanted to put it back in. But I finally watched Matilda once again. I haven't seen it since I was probably a preteen. It's probably the last time I watched this film. So it's been a long time. But Matilda, fantastic film. Danny DeVito, Mara Wilson, Rhea Perlman, and etc. I had a blast. There's a lot of parts of this film that really just kind of come back as a memory. And if you haven't seen Matilda, it's $7.99 on Amazon. So like, do yourself a favor and buy this one. Yeah, it's incredible. Next is a film that like I had just come home from like a really long night at work, and I'm just like, I just want to watch like a really happy movie. Well, it is happy to an extent, but if you haven't seen this, you know what I mean. I'm talking about Wonder right here, with Jacob Tremblay, who plays our main character. He's this kid who has a botched birth, and he has had a lot of surgeries pretty much to save his life. He really kind of deformed his face, and he's about to enter this elementary school, and people are, obviously he's not really interacted. He's been homeschooled for a while. And really just kind of seeing if he fits in. So it also has Julia Roberts and Owen Wilson, who are in it as his parents. Owen Wilson's not in it much, so I guess Julia Roberts is really in it a lot more. So you see that son and mother relationship a little bit more, and seeing her go through this, which is it's really nice, and to kind of see the pain's not really nice. It's nice to see the changes that go on in the film itself, because it's a sad movie, but it's also a happy movie because it ends on a good note. So, but yeah, I definitely wanted to watch something where I warmed my heart a little bit, and Wonder definitely cured that a little bit. So next, we're actually going to be talking about a few more boutique labels. Next is Kino Lorber. So the first film that I watched from Kino Lorber is from 1944. It's another film that has been on my shelf for far too long. And this is a noir, and is starring Edward G. Robinson in it, and Joan Bennett as well. And I'm talking about a film directed by Fritz Lang, The Woman in the Window. And man, oh man, I did not know what to expect from this one. I really like Edward G. Robinson. I've always watched his films where he's kind of the typical gangster in those 30s and 40 films that he's in. But I really like the way he performed in this one. He's a professor who happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there's just a death that happens, and he just doesn't know how this all transpired. And that's pretty much where I'll go from there, because it's, like I said, it's a noir, so you're going to have to watch it yourself and just kind of see how the mystery unfolds in there, and see if he gets caught for, helping this woman who he sees the portrait in the window, who just mysteriously shows up right as he's like kind of eyeing it. But yeah, it's a fun film, and it's really good. I would definitely recommend watching this movie if you haven't seen it, from Kino Lorber. And then the other film that I watched is an Alfred Hitchcock film from 1947, directed by David O. Selznick. It's got Gregory Peck in it, and it also has Ann Todd, Charles Lofton's in it, Charles Coburn, Ethel Barrymore, and Alida Valli. So it's a stacked cast, and it's pretty much like a courtroom drama, the Paradine case right here, and a really, really fantastic film. And I've actually just recently, I'll show you in a new video, I actually just got some more Hitchcock films, and so I've kind of been on a Hitchcock mood. I just recently watched Rope again, and it's one of my favorite Hitchcock films. But the Paradine, I think is how you say it. It's the last name of the people in this case itself. So pretty much we have Gregory Peck, who falls in love with Mrs. Paradine, and trying to figure out, he's like defending her in court in a very, very strange way for the death of the husband. And so it's that, and then you also see Ann Todd, who is Gregory Peck's wife, who is, I believe it's Ann Todd who's playing his wife, who really is just trying to defend Gregory Peck, and really trying to figure out what's going on with this, really kind of just encouraging him to be more involved in this case, which is very strange as a wife would do. Anyway, you'll see what I'm talking about if you haven't seen it. But yeah, it's a good one. It's rather long. It's a little over 2 hours, but the runtime you don't really feel, because it's pretty engaging the whole time. So yeah, you should check this one out if you haven't seen it. Next, we're going to talk about a few films from Powerhouse Films, some Indicator films. All right, so moving right along, I was finally able to watch a few more Westerns from a box set that I missed out on, but that's totally fine. I have the standard editions from Indicator. This is spine number 63 and 64, some Randolph Scott and Bud Bodeker films. And the more and more I watch Bud Bodeker in his interviews, I love this guy. He seems very eccentric. It's like a bull. He fell in love with bullfighting, and just happened to fall into films, and he makes really, really respectable B Westerns, and Randolph Scott is just his go-to guy. And yeah, so I watched Decision at Sundown, and I also watched Buchanan Rides Alone. I think it's really interesting. So there's some parallels with these films, in the fact that I guess Bud Bodeker really loves having a lot of his film settings kind of around like an outpost, or around a place where it's right on the edge of town, where his character Randolph Scott kind of comes into contact with the bad guys rather early on, and the bad guys are trying their hardest to get along with Randolph Scott for a bit, but obviously Randolph Scott's got his guard up, and something usually bad happens where they're working together for a second, and then something bad happens, and then Randolph Scott has to defeat them by the end of the movie. And those are pretty much the plots to a lot of these films, but they're really, really fun. and they're beautifully shot, and the cinematography, because I guess a lot of the film's locations, are where Bud Bodeker wanted to film at. But I really love these films, and I really love that they have the special features. So, Decision at Sundown. So we have, as I always say with Indicator, has a bunch of special features. Bud Bodeker on the Renowned Cycle from '99, talking about the unreleased documentary visiting Bud Bodeker. A Man Alone, Edward Buscombe on Randolph Scott. The acclaimed author and editor of the BFI Companion to the Western discusses his admiration for the iconic star. That's really interesting too, because that's actually Randolph Scott is his favorite person to star in westerns, which is an odd choice, and you wouldn't think, after you have Wayne and Eastwood, for instance, or even like Stewart, and have all those lineups of all those different people, Yul Brynner and whatnot. But Randolph Scott's his favorite, which is very interesting. He explains that in that particular bonus feature. Taylor Hackford on Decision at Showdown, talking about Bodeker's films, and then has isolated music as well as gallery image and the original theatrical trailer. And then with Buchanan Rides Alone, we have the John Player lecture with Bud Bodeker, 74-minute audio interview. So this is played as a pretty much an audio commentary track by Horizons West author Jim Kitts at the National Film Theater. Kim Newman on the Renowned Cycle, an appreciation and analysis for the critic and author of Wild West movies. And then we have Christopher Frayling on Bud Bodeker. The renowned writer and cultural historian discusses the work of Bud Bodeker. Taylor Hackford on Buchanan Rides Alone, and talking about his film and the connections. But like I said, both of these films are really, really great. If you're in the UK, get these films. These are all regions, so you can order them also in the States, so you can play them on your US players. But these are really fun films, and the standard editions are definitely out on Indicator's site. So do yourself a favor and watch these movies. If you like westerns, you're gonna love these ones. And I can't wait to watch the last two in the particular collection. Next is an Arrow film, my last of the boutique labels. Before I jump into a 4K, I have. But I was able to watch the second and third film from the Bloodthirsty trilogy. That's the Japanese posters right here. These Bloodthirsty trilogies are kind of just like Japanese hammer horror films from the 70s. So I believe 1970, let's look real quick on the years when these came out. 1971, 1974. So we have The Vampire Doll from 1970, which is a film I watched quite a bit ago. And then I was able to watch Lake of Dracula, 1971, and then The Evil of Dracula from 1974. So that's the actual cover, and that's the Japanese cover. So they're reversible ones. These are good films. These are decent ones. I definitely would say that I wasn't super invested in these movies in particular, but there's some definitely interesting things going on, and very stylized performances. They definitely do not act like traditional vampires. The rules are broken left and right. Decisions are made in the film itself, and it's rather low budget as well. But they're really, they're a product of its time from the 1970s, early 70s, and they're fun films. And if you have yourself a favorite, like watch it with some friends, I would say. And they're fun in that regard, and I definitely enjoyed it. I don't know if I'm going to revisit them anytime soon, but I had a good time regardless. And so that's what I watched from Arrow Video. And then the last film that I watched is the Ultimate Dad movie that came out a few years ago. That it took me a while to finally watch it, but I did. It's from, I think 2019 is when it came out. I was able to get the 4K because it was on sale. I was finally able to get Ford vs. Ferrari right here. Matt Damon and Christian Bale. This is an incredible film. I don't give a shit about cars, but I do love Fast and Furious movies because they're stupid as all get out. But Ford vs. Ferrari, I didn't expect to like it so much. But yeah, this is an incredible film. It looks great on 4K. Performances by Christian Bale in particular. Everyone always hears about, I guess, his Machinist, or you have the Dark Knight trilogy and Christian Bale performances. I really love this performance because he's like actually English and himself a little bit more. Just really hot-blooded, where Matt Damon kind of plays a backseat and the one who's in I guess pretty much just trying to enable this guy to do the things that he can do, the incredible things that he can do. So it really is a true story event. and it's just like, you know, I guess a little micro history of that time period, where Ford was really much at a transition period, trying to compete with this Italian car maker Ferrari and trying to win. I can't remember what the exact race is. The 24 Hours of Le Mans in France. So it's a crazy race, and it's a really good movie. I really recommend it. It's rather long. It's almost 3 hours long. It's 152 minutes, but it's definitely worth the car ride. So that is what I watched for the month of May. What about you? What have you been watching for the month of May? Have you been on this international movie journey with me? Have you been watching films outside the United States or wherever you're watching from? Whatever language you're not speaking. What are you watching, right? So let me know down in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope everyone's doing good. I hope you liked it. Comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.